Do you ever feel like you just have about a million mental tabs open?
Oh, constantly. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you know the exact feeling. You're sitting there and you're just trying to focus on a completely normal, straightforward task. Like, say you're writing a basic email to a colleague.
Just a standard Tuesday morning email.
Exactly. But in the background, your brain is just, it's spinning. It's aggressively reminding you that, oh, hey, you need to buy oat milk.
Yeah, and you never texted your mother back.
Yes. And then, it pivots to your car registration expiring and, oh, by the way, you still haven't figured out your retirement plan.
Which is terrifying.
It is. It's this constant, exhausting, low-grade hum of overwhelm. It really is the universal modern condition. We are just drowning in our own internal to-do lists.
We really are. I mean, it's completely paralyzing. We're walking around trying to function while simultaneously trying to mentally juggle 50 glass balls, and we're just terrified of dropping even one.
Which is exactly why we are going on today's mission. For this deep dive, we are unpacking a comprehensive review of a legendary productivity framework. I'm talking about David Allen's Getting Things Done.
Ah, GTD.
Yeah, GTD, widely known in the productivity space. And we're looking specifically at an analysis of the audiobook experience of this methodology. I mean, because, the system has essentially become the foundational blueprint for modern workplace productivity.
It's basically the gold standard at this point.
Totally. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yep.
Because there is a central revolutionary idea right at the top of this material that totally shifts how you view your own brain. The core philosophy is basically this. Your mind is for having ideas, not holding them.
I love that quote. That single sentence, it changes the entire paradigm of how we work if you really absorb it.
It really does.
Because the fundamental premise of this whole framework is that the human brain is, it's a spectacularly powerful tool for synthesis, for creativity, for problem solving. But, and this is key, it is a remarkably poor storage device.
It's terrible at it.
Right. When you try to use your working memory to hold on to every single task and errand and obligation, you're fundamentally misusing your cognitive hardware.
Right. It's like, well, think of it less like a computer with maxed out RAM, because I think we've all heard that analogy.
That one's a bit tired.
It is. I think it's more like a chaotic restaurant kitchen. You are the head chef. You're trying to chop vegetables, sear a steak, plate a delicate dessert, and simultaneously remember that table 4 wants no onions.
And table 9 is allergic to shellfish.
Exactly. And table 2 needs their check. But you are doing all of this without using any order tickets.
Oh, wow. That sounds like an actual nightmare.
Right. The cooking isn't the problem. The lack of a ticket rail is the problem. Your brain is spending all of its energy just trying not to forget the orders instead of, actually making the food.
That kitchen analogy captures the friction perfectly because, what happens to that chef? They become overwhelmed with anxiety. And before we can even talk about building a system to fix this, we have to look at the root cause of that specific anxiety.
Where is it all coming from?
Well, the framework posits that our daily stress doesn't actually come from having too much to do. Which sounds counterintuitive, right?
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Because it definitely feels like I just have too much to do.
I know it feels that way, but it actually comes from unfinished commitments. It comes from unclear priorities and disorganized information that we are forcing our brains to actively track.
Oh, I see. There is this huge psychological weight to unfinished business. Like, if I know I need to renew my passport, but I haven't written it down anywhere safe, my brain thinks it needs to remind me about my passport every hour, on the hour, just in case.
Exactly. And there's actually a known psychological principle behind this. It's called the Zeigarnik effect.
The Zeigarnik effect?
Yeah, basically, your brain is wired to fixate on uncompleted tasks. It just won't let go of open loops.
That makes so much sense.
Right. So long as that passport renewal is just floating in the ether of your mind, your subconscious is dedicating precious bandwidth to it.
So it's constantly draining your battery in the background.
Exactly. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, the ultimate goal of this methodology isn't just to make you a more ruthless, efficient worker bee. The real goal is to close those loops and achieve a psychological state called mind like water.
Mind like water. Okay, sounds very martial arts, a little zen for a corporate productivity book.
It does sound a bit mystical, yeah.
Are we talking about just staying calm under pressure, or is there a specific mechanism here? Are we just building a better to-do list, or is this a total mental rewiring?
It's definitely a rewiring. Think about a literal body of water. If you throw a tiny pebble into a calm pond, the water reacts with small ripples. a reaction perfectly proportional to the pebble. But if you throw a massive boulder in, the water reacts with a massive splash. It responds appropriately to the mass and the impact, and then, this is the key, it returns to calm. It doesn't overreact to the pebble, and it doesn't underreact to the boulder.
Ah, okay. Whereas in my current state, an unexpected email from my boss feels like a boulder.
Right.
And I react with like a tidal wave of panic, even if it's just asking for a minor file update.
Exactly. When your mind is already brimming with unorganized tasks, any new input pushes you over the edge. So the mind-like water state is about replacing those frantic reactions with a reliable external workflow.
So you have a buffer.
Yes. So when life throws something at you, whether it's a minor email or a major life crisis, you actually have the bandwidth to respond proportionally.
So the immediate problem is all the junk currently sitting in our heads. To get to that calm pond state, the framework prioritizes getting the clutter out. And we look at the 5-step GTD framework. The first major hurdle is the capture phase.
Step 1.
Right. And the rule is absolute. You have to collect everything that has your attention, every idea, email, meeting note, personal reminder, and massive project. Nothing stays only in your head.
Nothing.
Use notebooks, apps, voice notes, whatever tool you prefer, as long as it feeds into one trusted collection system.
And that word trusted, that is the entire linchpin of the psychology here.
Why is that so important?
Well, if your subconscious brain doesn't completely trust the external system you've built, it will refuse to hand over the information.
Oh, it'll just keep holding on to it.
Yeah. It will keep waking you up at 3 a.m. to remind you about the car registration because it doesn't genuinely believe your random scrap of paper is going to handle it.
Okay, but I have to push back on this whole capture everything concept for a second.
Okay, go for it.
Wait, capturing absolutely every email and passing thought sounds like it would create more stress, not less. I mean, if I capture absolutely every random passing thought, minor anxiety, and trivial task, aren't I just validating my own overwhelm?
It sounds like it, yeah.
If I write down all 200 things floating in my head, I'm just creating an anxiety scrapbook. I'm going to be staring at a terrifyingly long, chaotic list. Isn't that just information hoarding?
It absolutely would be. You would just be hoarding information, and looking at that list would be completely paralyzing.
Yes.
And honestly, that is a trap a lot of people fall into when they try to get organized.
Yeah.
They stop at capturing.
Right, they just make the mega list and stare at it.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And that is why the framework insists that capturing is completely useless without the next phase, which is step 2, clarify.
To clarify, okay.
You don't leave those captured items as a chaotic list of worries. You are forced to look at every single item you've dumped out of your head and ask a ruthless set of triage questions.
Like what?
First, you ask, what exactly is this? And second, is action required?
Oh, so you're forcing a decision on the front end rather
No.
than just letting it sit there menacingly on the page.
Precisely. Let's look at the triage paths. If you look at an item and realize no action is actually required, you only have 3 options. You delete it, just let it go completely. You archive it as reference material, because you might need the information later. Or you incubate it for the future, meaning it gets completely out of your active visual field.
That sounds like a relief.
But if action is required, you are forced to identify the very next physical action.
The very next physical action. Okay, this is where the framework directly targets procrastination. Right?
Oh, 100%.
Because we usually put things off not because we are lazy, but because the task itself is just a poorly defined blob of dread.
A blob of dread, yes.
Think about how this happens in real life. The source gave a really good YouTube example. Let's say you're feeling ambitious and you write down on your to-do list a launch YouTube channel, or even just improve YouTube channel.
And what happens in your body when you wake up on a Tuesday morning, look at your list, and see launch YouTube channel?
I physically want to go back to sleep.
Ex-
It's too heavy. It's not a task. It's an entire life era. It requires 50 sub-decisions I haven't made yet. What's the channel about? What's the lighting like? Do I need a new microphone?
Too many variables.
Right, because there is no clear, immediate entry point. I'm going to look at that item, feel a spike of cortisol, and then probably go scroll on my phone for 45 minutes to soothe myself.
And that is the physics of procrastination in action right there. The framework forbids those vague, heavy lists. Launch YouTube channel is not an action. It is a project.
Ah, okay.
To clarify it, you have to break it down until you hit the literal physical reality of the work. You find the very next physical action. So instead of that vague goal, your list should say, design thumbnail for first video, or research book for topic, or write script or record voiceover.
It has to be a physical movement you can actually execute in space and time. You can't, quote unquote, do a launch. But you can sit at a desk, open software, and physically design a thumbnail.
Yes. By moving the decision-making process to the clarify stage, you reduce the friction of starting to almost zero. When you sit down to work, you don't have to agonize over how to begin. You already made that decision. You just execute.
Okay, so you've clarified what needs to be done. You know you need to design a thumbnail, and you know you need to call the IRS, and you know you need to buy oat milk. But if you just leave all those wildly different physical actions sitting on one massive continuous list, you're going to get severe decision fatigue.
Oh, for sure.
Where does this clarified stuff actually go so you don't freeze up again? Once you have these highly specific physical actions, how do you prevent them from becoming just another chaotic pile of sticky notes?
Well, this is where we bring in step 3, the organize phase. The methodology provides very specific buckets to house these clarified actions to reduce that decision fatigue.
Okay, what are the buckets?
First, you have a projects list to keep track of the big outcomes you're committed to. Then you have your next actions list for those physical tasks we just talked about.
Yep.
You have your calendar, which is sacred. It's only for things that absolutely must happen on a specific day or time. No aspirational tasks go on the calendar.
Oh, that's a good rule.
But the real magic happens in 2 distinct buckets: the waiting for list and the someday maybe list.
I am fascinated by the psychological relief of the waiting for a list. So much of modern workplace stress comes from dependencies.
It really does.
Like you can't finalize a report until your colleague from accounting sends you their spreadsheet. If you just leave that dependency floating in your head, you will constantly worry, did they send it? Did I miss it? Should I follow up today or tomorrow?
Exactly. It creates an external boundary between what you can control and what you can't. By putting that dependency into a formal waiting for bucket, you completely externalize the anxiety.
You don't have to hold it anymore.
Right. You know exactly whose court the ball is in.
Mhm.
You aren't responsible for doing the work right now. You are only responsible for tracking that it's owed to you.
And then there's the someday maybe list, which feels like a pressure release valve. It's for all those things you genuinely want to do: learn conversational Italian, build a deck in the backyard, write a novel.
The fun stuff.
Yeah, but you are officially giving yourself permission to not worry about them today. They are captured, they are safe in the system, so you won't forget your dreams, but they aren't cluttering up your Tuesday morning radar.
And the overarching benefit of this organization is curation. When you have an hour of free time, you aren't spending 45 minutes of it frantically sorting through emails trying to figure out what's most important. The choices are already organized for you.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because how do these beautifully organized buckets not just become a graveyard of good intentions?
Not a classic trap.
Because I've done this. I've bought the fancy notebooks, I've color-coded my lists, and 3 weeks later they are completely irrelevant because life moved faster than my system.
Yep, that is the most common point of failure, and it brings us to the maintenance phase. Step 4, reflect. The framework anchors this entirely around the weekly review.
The weekly review.
Yes, if you build a pristine organizational system but you don't maintain it, it's like buying a high-performance sports car and never taking it in for a tune-up.
You never change the oil.
Exactly. Eventually, the engine will seize on the highway. If you aren't regularly clearing out your inbox, checking off completed tasks, and updating your project statuses, the system rots. The engine breaks down.
And this goes right back to that concept of trust we mentioned earlier, doesn't it? The subconscious mind is incredibly perceptive. The moment your brain realizes the system is outdated, the moment it sees you forgot to check off 3 things you already did, it revokes its trust.
That's the exact biological mechanism at play. Your brain says, well, this external system is unreliable. I guess I have to take the job back.
And the tabs open back up.
Exactly. It immediately starts trying to hold on to the ideas again. The open loops return, the stress floods back in, and that mind-like water state completely evaporates. The weekly review is not a suggestion. It is a mandatory meeting with yourself to continuously earn back the trust of your own brain.
Okay, so assuming we have maintained the system, we finally reach step 5. Engage. The point where we actually do the work based on time, energy, context, and priority.
Yes, the execution phase. But even this is highly intentional. You don't just pick tasks at random. The methodology suggests filtering your choices based on your current reality.
With your context.
Yeah, filtering by context is a game changer. Imagine you were sitting at an airport gate. You have 20 minutes before boarding, and your energy is entirely depleted from traveling.
I know that feeling well.
Right. That is not the context to open your laptop and try to tackle writing a dense, heavily researched proposal. Instead, you look at your trusted system, you filter your actions for low energy and phone context, and you realize you can clear out 3 quick approvals and text a client back. You're making meaningful progress without fighting your current limitations. Organization guarantees that when you sit down to work, you know exactly what to do.
But what about all those tiny, annoying tasks that pop up constantly while we are trying to execute these bigger steps?
Mhm.
Because my biggest issue with all of this is the sheer friction of the micro tasks.
The little things.
Yeah. If I have to capture, clarify, and organize the fact that I need to reply yes to a calendar invite or sign a one-page PDF, the framework becomes more work than the actual job. It feels like bureaucratic overkill for the tiny things that pop up all day long.
You've just hit on why the framework includes an efficiency bypass. It's probably the most famous, instantly applicable rule in the entire system, the 2-minute rule.
Okay, what's that?
The logic is fiercely practical. If a task crosses your desk and you determine it will take less than 2 minutes to complete, like replying to a simple email,
Hmm.
signing a document, making a quick phone call, you do not capture it.
You don't.
You do not clarify it. You do not put it in a beautifully color-coded bucket. You simply do it immediately.
Because the administrative overhead of tracking it takes longer than the task itself?
Exactly. If you don't execute them in the moment, these microtasks accumulate. They snowball into this massive, intimidating mountain of trivialities that will entirely drain your willpower later in the week. By ruthlessly applying the 2-minute rule, you stop the bleeding of these tiny obligations.
So what does this all mean? How does this specific framework apply to your daily life, depending on your career? Let's make this real for you, the listener. We've explored the psychology and the mechanics, but how does it map onto daily life?
Well, the review emphasizes that this is a highly adaptable framework, not just a rigid corporate structure. Picture yourself in your specific role. If you are a mid-level manager, constantly barraged by direct reports, meetings, and strategic goals, this system is what prevents you from dropping the ball when you have 20 different projects in flight.
Or consider the entrepreneur. When you run your own business, you are wearing every single hat. Marketing, finance, product development.
It's a lot.
It is. And the framework allows you to compartmentalize those roles so you can focus intensely on one at a time without losing your mind to the chaos of the others.
The review even highlights practical applications for students. A college student can use this to track complex study plans, breaking down a massive end-of-term thesis into clarifying next action so midterms don't trigger a week-long panic attack.
Oh, I wish I had this in college.
Right. Or think about content creators. They can use the buckets to structure their entire publishing workflow, separating the messy creative idea generation from the highly structured script planning, recording, and editing phases.
It really fits everything.
It is also highlighted as a vital tool for quality professionals. People who are managing audits, tracking corrective actions, or dealing with customer complaints. In high-stakes, highly regulated environments, relying on human memory isn't just a personal stressor, it is a professional liability. The methodology provides the rigorous structure required for continuous improvement projects to move forward with absolute clarity.
Okay, before we all rush out to completely overhaul our lives and download this specific audiobook, we do need to look at the potential caveats presented in the review.
The pitfalls, yeah.
Yeah. The source material is overwhelmingly positive. It gives the audiobook experience an overall rating of 4.9 out of 5. It highly praises the practical, workshop-like feel, the crystal clear explanations, and the professional narration.
4.9 is incredibly high.
It is. It says it's excellent for actually learning the mechanics of the system, but it comes with a massive warning label. The initial setup requires serious, dedicated time and discipline.
Absolutely.
You do not just, implement this framework on a lazy Sunday afternoon.
No, it is a massive behavioral shift. Setting up the collection habits, defining your myriad of projects, establishing the discipline of the weekly review, it is a heavy investment of time up front.
And the sheer number of categories can really overwhelm beginners,
Yeah.
right?
The goal is to buy yourself peace of mind later, but the review rightly points out that the learning curve is steep. You have to be prepared for that.
There's another piece of the review that really caught my eye. It explicitly notes that the audiobook is, quote-unquote, less motivational and focuses strictly on the dry mechanics of the systems.
Interesting.
Yeah, the reviewer rated the motivational aspect as only moderate. Now, if I'm listening to a self-development book and it's not hyping me up, if it's not giving me that fiery, conquer-the-world inspiration, Doesn't that make it a bit dry? I mean, why would I want to listen to what essentially amounts to an instruction manual?
This raises an important question about what we are actually looking for when we consume self-improvement content. Culturally, we are deeply addicted to the emotional high of motivation.
We really are. We want to feel pumped up.
It feels incredible to listen to a charismatic speaker yell at us to seize the day and crush our goals. It gives us a dopamine hit.
Huh.
But the reality of motivation is that it is notoriously painfully temporary.
It really is. It fades the moment you get a bad night's sleep or a vaguely threatening email from a client.
Precisely. Motivation evaporates when it meets reality. Systems, however, are permanent. The lack of hype in this audiobook is actually its greatest feature, not a bug.
Oh, wow. I like that.
It offers strong motivation precisely because it provides practical understanding and high retention. When you suddenly realize, oh, I actually have a concrete tool to handle the chaos of my life, that realization is profoundly more motivating in the long run than any temporary pep talk.
That makes total sense. You aren't listening to be entertained. You are listening to build an architecture for your daily life. The review even suggests that you physically take notes while listening to the audiobook because there are so many interconnected steps. By mapping it out visually as you listen, you are actively cementing the workflow into your brain, rather than just passively letting the audio wash over you.
That active engagement is crucial. You are literally building the external brain that is going to take the load off your internal one.
Looking at the final takeaways from this deep dive, the value proposition of this framework is massive for anyone listening. We've seen how disorganized information actively drains our cognitive battery.
It just drains you.
We've seen how clarifying vague tasks directly cures procrastination, which increases action. And above all, we've seen why trusted external systems will always, always outperform the fragile limitations of human memory. Organization reduces stress.
The overarching lesson is that we simply have to stop using our brains as filing cabinets. It is a fundamental waste of our most precious resource.
Which brings us right back to that unforgettable anchoring mantra from the very beginning. Your mind is for having ideas, not holding them. Let the system hold the data, let the buckets hold the obligations, so your mind can actually do what it was brilliantly evolved to do.
And that leaves us with a truly fascinating prospect to consider. Think about all the mental bandwidth, the sheer wattage you currently spend every single day just trying to remember what you're supposed to be doing.
So much wasted energy.
Think about all that background processing power being eaten up by forgotten emails, unclarified projects, and ambient anxiety. If you were to successfully externalize all those tasks, all those obligations, and all those dependencies into a perfectly functioning, trusted system, what hidden depths of creativity or entirely new pursuits might your newly freed up brain suddenly start exploring?
It's an amazing thought. When the relentless background noise of your own to-do list finally stops,
Well,
what will you actually be able to hear?